decide what it is to be an Indian. And with that, I'm going to come to the final part and two slides of the final part, which is what is the facets of the Indian leader. So far, I have used only the first two chapters in my book. The remaining 9 chapters are about the facets of the Indian leader. I say facets, I don't say traits. Facets. Because man is not a noun. Like, he is an introvert or he's an extrovert or he is judgmental and he is perceptive or he is feeling, he is thinking. These are very reductionist, westernized labeling and categorization, which might be useful for maybe something material, perhaps, but not for a dynamic spirit, which is man. For man, according to me, is both the being, the Atmic self, and the becoming, the socialized self. And the being and becoming are constantly in a state of dynamic interaction, engagement, and social reconstruction. So if you imagine this picture as being, let's say, the river Ganges, and think of it coming from Gangotri, then wherever the slope is very quick, uh, then the water will come. The water, being the human spirit, will flow very fast. And at Rishikesh, if the banks are very wide, the water will slightly widen. And if there are turns and twists in Varanasi and sand, it will slow down. And if it meets rocks, it will turn into a rapid. And if there's big gaps between two rocks, it will turn into a waterfall. In the same way, man will behave depending on the environment. Man is this in this environment, and he is that in that environment, and he's much more. So, someone like Dr. Ganjwala could be very passive, very quiet, very non-violent. But if there are 10 goons who come to your house one night with arms and weapons to do harm to you and your family, it is most likely that you will end up becoming violent to respond to the situation at hand. So, depending on the situation, and this is something that Ramanujan has clarified by saying that Indians are very context specific. That's why Indians say it all depends. And the reason is because dharma, which is Indians' word to the world, is contextual. So we have got different types of rules. Unlike the West, which has got a rule is a rule is a rule, which is equal for all, we believe in equitability, not equality. So, for example, in a family of 5 children, someone will get milk who's a good student, someone will get autistic who's a good player, depending on gifting, depending on needs. And for different situations, we are required in the context to come up with the right, depending on the station, depending on the kind of kul or family, depending on the circumstances, and even in emergencies like the Apadharma, we have got certain principles. And even Mahatma Gandhi, rejecting the British legal law, said, I reject this law because I follow the eternal law, which is what he referred to as dharma. And ahimsa is another concept which is not about offering the other cheek when someone slaps you on the other, but to be able to bring violence to an end, even if one has to have recourse to violence. So said Krishna to Arjun. So said Bhishma to Yudhishthir. And there are many other concepts of Indianness, which is world is one family, Sankatan Sukta, and so on, is what I refer to the book. So I have, in the remaining 9 chapters, gone to describe Desi leader as directive and nurturant, and E for something, S for something. And I've gone on to explain the Desi leader. And I say that, for example, let's take the first one. The Indian leader is directive and nurturant, which is what JBP Sinha has said. He is the nurturant task leader. He's the Adhikar and the Anurag. He's actually dad, who's aloof, disciplinarian, strict, principled, nurturant, protective. And in the organization, in the Indian organizations, we have made our bosses dad. And many of the problems with making the bosses dad means that we have ended up becoming children, and therefore there is sibling rivalry, passive aggression, manipulation, lobbying, and so on and so forth that I write about. And many of the Western models, like charismatic leader, is actually narcissistic. Laissez-faire leader has ended up becoming an absentee landlord. Democratic leader has ended up becoming weak and perceived as such. And I go on to explain that in India, power, as understood in the West and understood in India, are quite different. Power in India is necessary for Sneha and Shraddha. And so I go on to explain each of these concepts in terms of what is it that makes the leader effective in the Indian context, is what the rest of the book clarifies. I'm going to stop here because I've gone beyond the 1 hour that we had kept for once this
Yeah, I think we have lost him. Now,
lost him at the right time. He's completed his talk.
yeah, that's good. So now I ask our the panelists, the first Dr. Guruvar Reddy, then Dr. Sancheti, and then Dr. Madhevia. How will you apply his understanding of the Indianness to your practice, to your situations? Do you think that is it possible for you to apply his understanding of the concept in your day-to-day practice or in your managing the people?
Yeah, definitely. I think that
Yes, Dr. Guruvar Reddy, you first.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. That Indianness is definitely a very unique character which all of us have and should have. And in the leadership, definitely our people work with us, not for us. Unlike the Western, the pink slips and all that, here the people are loyal and they work with us. That ownership and boss is going to take care of us. That feeling is there, and that adds a lot of times to the welfare of the organization. How much you pay will never equate to that ownership and loyalty. And that is the single most factor which all the bosses like us, Parag or myself, will have, and that is reflected time and again. For example, let us say there is a big cyclone, the hospital is inundated with water, everybody will come and work for that, and everybody will be there. So that is the spirit, and I think that Indianness is very unique.
Okay. Yes, Parag. What? How will you apply this to your practice?
Yeah, so it's an interesting talk. It's a different concept. You know, he tried to cover many different points. Hi, welcome back.
Sorry, I had a power outage.
Yeah. Steve, I was asking them a question like how they will going to apply your concept to their practice.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just,
please, Parag.
Yeah, quickly. Should we just finish the talk and then I'll give my comment?
No, I've stopped. I'm over with all my slides. So please go ahead.
Yeah. So essentially, you know, he told us about the East and the West, and that was a good comparison. And I think we are a mix of both, East as well as West. And I think we are unique in the sense that we can adapt to any culture. And that's the thing which also has been brought about by Steve Korea. Another thing which I feel is the Indianness sometimes is not discovered, and we continue to do or sometimes imitate one particular thing without really thinking what it is. So that is something which I feel we need to discover in ourselves. We need to go into more detail and bring that Indianness alive. So that is something which I got from Steve Korea's talk.
Okay, yeah, Malay.
See, from my perspective, I think the leadership, first of all, is different in different perspective. That means that if the business leadership is different, social leadership is different, family leadership is different. And in each area, the requirement in terms of, if you look at it as a concept, what Eastern and Western, that what we were talking about needs to be applied as what is required. I personally feel that in every aspect, both are required. The proportion will change. When you're talking about business leadership, you are doing it for your stakeholders, and you're talking about the actual outcomes. And you cannot really go away too much from that, because you have that larger responsibility to your stakeholders. So in that scenario, as required, and every business, every project, whatever that you're doing is at different stages. And depending on the stages, probably you will have to apply, whether it is you call it Western or Indian, but it's about having that, striking the right balance. And the same thing in terms of leadership at other places, it's different. So conceptually agreed, it has to be both. And I think each one of us, if we leave behind our hypocrisy and so-called emotional connect, I think we put things in the right perspective. It's the balance that we need to strike for every individual is different and every situation is different. So it's the right usage of both. There are best of both that we need to put in line with what the requirement is and the person that you are dealing, or the team that you are dealing, and the outcome that you are looking for.
Okay, like the question which I was thinking from the beginning, why he has used the term boss instead of leader? What is the difference between this term, the boss and the leader? Is it the same or it's different? Yeah, Guru Reddy, what do you think about this?
Boss has got a bit of a derogatory connotation. In the sense, boss is over, and leader is a man who is much more empathetic and carries the people with him. I would rather be called as a leader than a boss.
Yeah, sir, I think you can
So
choose
boss probably
your
gives a more of a.
you can choose your leader, but you cannot choose your boss. Your boss is your boss. So you can choose to follow a different person.
Yeah, Steve is here, so let's ask him this question. Like, you have used the word boss instead of leader. What is the reason for that?
So I would love to believe that we have got Indian leaders in India. The reality is that there are bosses. And I said that you are a leader when you're able to integrate the East and the West. But today in the country, we have a large number of bosses.
Yeah, boss, there is a bit of a pun intended quote. Boss is like a diaper. He's full of shit and always on your ass.
So is this in your talk?
Can you now ask? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the question is for Dr. Korea, but if he's unable to answer, we can go on to Dr. Sancheti also for it. In our workplaces, there is a Indian workplace has a system of hierarchy. So it comes from the top, whatever the boss, whatever the leader, whoever says, everybody else follows that, and there's not much discussion on that. It goes more along the lines of you are subjected to it. You are almost worshipping that person. You need to all have to come in line with that view. Whereas in the West, there would be more openness. It would come from bottom up. There would be exchange of ideas, discussions, and then they come to a conclusion, and then they go ahead. So although in one way there are advantages of both of them. What do you think about this? How does it work in the hospital practice of yours in our hospitals? How should we take this further?
So, as it was being echoed, the difference between the boss and a leader. Of course, even though we always want to be called leaders, in India, it doesn't really work that way. As Steve Correa was saying that, the reality is there are more bosses. I remember there was one person in Pune, and when I went to meet him, there on his table, it was very written, and there was a big sign that the buck stops here. So if that's the kind of person he is, I really didn't like that you cannot say that, and you cannot display it. It was just like he felt that there's nobody bigger than them. So coming back to answer your question, one has to really integrate your people. They should feel that you're approachable, your door is always open, and that kind of atmosphere has to be instilled. Sometimes hospitals don't work necessarily similar to industries. I would be happy to hear Dr. Malay also. It's a little difference in the culture when you're talking about industries and when you're talking about hospitals. Even though the basic principles of management don't change, there is a difference. In the hospital, one has to really take care of their doctors, who are I still believe one of the important people in the whole system,
To
as
be
well
more
as your,
pragmatic,
yeah,
take everybody along.
yeah. And then, your staff, of course, your ward boys, your nurses, all those people have to be really taken care. And there is the system which you have to develop. So, I tried at times to inculcate that once I came back from the US, and okay, let me sit with the ward boys and have coffee with them and
Yeah.
during in between surgeries, but that doesn't work. You can't do that. So there has to be something different. You cannot necessarily follow all those principles. And I remember once I'd gone to Hyderabad, actually, Gurua, and at that time I met this Satyam Computers chief, Mr. Ramling Raju, and he was sitting in the cafeteria very easily, and probably he didn't care what people felt, and he was just sipping his coffee. And I went and met him, and I was wondering who this guy is. And I didn't imagine that he would be, the chairman of the company. So we cannot do that in the cafeteria. I cannot sit with my maushi and sip coffee. It gives a different connotation. So I think that's a difference, and that is what the whole thing is. You have to adapt to the particular industry. So that's how I would answer your question, Satyan.
So I'll take this further to Dr. Malay. Sir, I mean, taking this discussion further, we struggle to sometimes have the balance between a professional and a personal relationship. As Indians, we want to be more personal with with our colleagues, with people whom we are working with, especially your juniors here. But I'll give you a small example from my end. I was getting a little pally with my driver because you're with him all the time, and then you start talking more, and then after a month or so, he then starts talking about his problems, and then he asks me for a loan. So you struggle to maintain that. So what is your view on how do you deal with this, and how should we take it further in hospitals?
I tell you, healthcare, and I'll say this is all humility that though I come from with a kind of 3 decades of experience, obviously in infrastructure, but healthcare has been very close to my heart, and I've been very closely associated. While we talk about everything, but if you see the practices in healthcare, I think it is the most probably exploiting, be it corporate, be it doctors or say supporting staff. I think each one is exploiting the other. So when the corporates talk great things, I think they are exploiting doctors. When doctors say that, it's the corporate exploiting. I think it's all about that, which is typically happening when the economy is based on something which is lacking, feeling of lacking in spite of having everything. This is the culture that we have developed. So I personally feel it's not very different when it comes to leadership or the managerial practices. then its sectoral differences will come, and those nuances are applicable in every sector. That is fine. But we are actually today, we are trying to discuss more on the leadership, which we could not. But when question comes of leadership, those competencies that we are talking about will require the similar kind of traits at every level, which we are missing. And we are missing, in a big way. So I don't see those qualities even in healthcare, whereby, if we practice that, we will be able to resolve those issues. So it is not something different. It is not very peculiar. You will find, you come across, on the other side, and then see the similar problems that you will find. And that there are some solutions that people apply. Even there, people will fail. To answer your questions about solving the problem in healthcare, go back and follow a very simple standard. Are we really open? Are we transparent? Are we really playing in team? Are we really giving, as somebody said, that it is equitable? Is it something that when you start asking those questions, if the answer comes in genuine way, probably no, then in that case, the solutions are very far. But if we are genuinely practicing what we believe and what we are saying, I think the answers will be, easy. In my opinion, I think as doctors, as in healthcare professionals, if we keep away our egos out, and which is true for, and maybe more so in healthcare, if we keep that away and start counting people in equality, I think the solutions are there. And I can tell you that these practices are there in many, many industries outside healthcare that probably we need to learn from.
Dr. Kuria, since we have you, Dr. Reddy was saying that there is a lot of loyalty that he gets from his staff. And this is something which is a very Indian concept or an Eastern concept, and they don't leave him that easily, and they are there for him whenever he needs. But we've seen people like nursing staff or who just leave the job for maybe 1,000 rupee more increase in salary and would jump to another job at the drop of a hat. What are your views on that?
See, this loyalty and meritocracy, for some strange reason, seems to be seen as opposing forces, as if those who are loyal don't have merit, and those who are meritocracy don't need to be loyal. Quite recently, I've written an article, I'll probably even send it to you all on the LinkedIn, which is, as long as there is contribution and there is continuity, you need both. You need contribution and you need continuity. And if you're getting both of it, then loyalty is definitely as important as contribution. And great organizations, if you look at many of the multinationals and Indian companies, whether you've had great contribution and great amount of longevity in those organizations, like HDFC, for example, the CEO has been there for many, many years, and so on. And there's so many such examples. And this loyalty has to be a two-way street. If you look at what has been happening today to organizations, and let's take COVID times. If you get rid of people during an emergency and a bad time, in a society which essentially believes in trust, once that trust is negated with your suppliers, with your employees, with your staff, trust, which is a very important currency in the Indian context, if that is vitiated, it is very difficult to get it back. So those aspects need to be understood in terms of how we take decisions when it comes to an Indian context.
The last question, because we are coming to the end of the session. Quick question. Parag, what do you think a typical quality or your salient feature as a leader? And from where you got that quality? I'm going to ask the same question to Balay and then Dr. Guruvareddy also. So what is your salient feature which you consider as a very important quality?
See, the most important quality, and I'll keep this short, is to take your team together, is to instill confidence in your team, and to tell them that even if they make mistakes, it's okay, but they have to take the responsibility and they have to be responsible for whatever decisions they take, right or wrong. If they take it right, they will get a pat on the back from the leader. If they are wrong, don't worry, they will be, the leader will come and will bail you out of it. So I think that's one quality if you can have as a leader, and let your team know it and integrate that. I think the team will always be with you. And it has to be, the trust. You have to trust them, and it's a give and take relationship. So it's not only one way. So these are the two things which I feel are important, and that would really define a leader, and that's what I try to follow, which I have learned from my father.
Okay, so empower the staff or your team. That's the one thing, and the trust. These are the two important qualities which you consider are very important. Malay, what do you think important? Now
So-
I'm asking from a healthcare perspective.
And I think I'll go back again, Dhiren. Please do not differentiate. Leadership is leadership. The managerial quality, or when you say boss, I also look at it from the managerial perspective, could be different. When you talk about leadership qualities, in my opinion, is very simple. First of all, leader has to be transparent. The transparency is something that people watch you. These people watch your behavior, what you do and what you say. And people know exactly. You think you can fool them, you can't. So transparency is one thing. Second is you give them clarity. It's so important that what clarity you bring to the organization and the people who work for you. Third thing is what kind of accountability you really give them. How really you make them accountable with clarity in terms of what they are supposed to do. Fourth is how do you really reward them? In that, while you talk in good English, Hindi, Gujarati, saying that you've done a great job, but when question comes of really rewarding them, I don't mean in terms of money. I mean in terms of every aspect, and especially the career. Are you really thinking of their future? In terms of what is their growth? Is that something that you are giving? And as what Dr. Sancheti rightly said, it's about trusting them. It is about having that trust in them and provide that courageous commitment in terms of whatever that you are wanting to convey to them. So in my opinion, it's about transparency, clarity, giving them career, giving them appreciation, rewards for that, whatever that they've delivered, and having trust in them and being committed to them. That's the basic quality of any leadership anywhere.
Thank you. And Dr. Guruvar Reddy, what is your quality?
In one sentence, I manage them with my brain and I lead them with my heart.
Wonderful.
Good.
So that's what I would feel. Because as others people said, healthcare, you cannot run it like a software industry. Software people, even they're not involved, they don't care what is the industry looks like, it doesn't matter. But in healthcare, if right from Maushi, the security boy or the fourth class employee do not have that involvement of compassion and empathy for the patient, no healthcare organization can go forward, however big it is. That is the DNA of the healthcare, the DNA of the hospital. That DNA comes only when the boss shows more a heart side than a brain side. The brain sides others will take care, but the boss has to show the heart side. So that is what very unique for the healthcare. And another important thing is anybody in life will have 2 or 3 recognition points. One is a recognition by finances, that's a different story. But the second is recognition by the career upswing. That is where if the one guy joins you as a clerk and retires as a clerk, the boss is in fault. So that guy also has to go up in the ladder. That's why I got a special scheme. I got at least 30 to 40 physiotherapists who joined as physiotherapists and who are now deputy general managers or general managers. So you multitask them, you show them different paths, and you tell them that you can do it, and then diversify them into healthcare, and they will be the winners for you.
Okay, so with that, we end today's session. I would like to thank Steve for giving a very unique concept of Indianness. And then also I like to thank our esteemed panelists for their views on the leadership and how they apply that in day-to-day practice. So I thank Dr. Parag, Dr. Guruvareddy, and Dr. Malay for their time, sharing their time with us. And I also thank my other moderators, that's Satyan, Tushar, Ashok, and Neeraj, and also thank Ortho TV. The same program can be viewed again on the Ortho TV. So if you have missed something, please log into the Ortho TV and you will be able to view this program in future also. Thank you once again. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dhiren. Thank you, all the panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was pleasure interacting.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
So,
Thank you, Steve.
are we still live?